Hi, I'm Craig Roberts and this is another quick guide to, and in this video we're going to be looking at formats. Back in the heyday days of film, the format you shot in was pretty much determined by the camera you used. There was the 35mm of the SLR, the 6x6 of the Hasselblad, and the 5x4 of the large format camera, loved by dedicated landscapers. There was also the panoramic in the form of the very large and very expensive 6x17 models by Fuji and Photoman. Each camera was used for a different look and purpose, and because you were shooting film, that pretty much determined the format you shot in. Shooting digitally these days has made the format choice a lot easier and cheaper to work with. No longer do you have to choose a different camera for each format, and cropping to each format is a lot easier to do too. You can even shoot the largest panoramic images for making massive prints without breaking the bank. Deciding on the format you shoot with depends on the subject and the look you want in your final result. Each has its own merits and each can influence the way the viewer sees your final image. So if you haven't yet tried shooting in a different format, or if you only crop because you didn't get close enough to the subject, now's the time to start experimenting. Most digital cameras, especially digital SLRs, shoot in the 3:2 aspect ratio that matches the dimensions of 35mm film. The elongated rectangle pretty much matches the way we view the world, and it's great for landscape views and can be flipped to the vertical format for a different perspective and to include more sky or foreground. This is more or less the same aspect ratio whether your digital SLR shoots full frame or the APS-C crop format. Made popular by the Hasselblad range of cameras, it was photographers such as Charlie Waite that made this format the new way to shoot landscapes. With even sides, this 1:1 aspect ratio makes your images more neutral with no bias to a particular orientation. This creates a sense of calm to a subject with a lack of tension and allows shape and form to become the focus in the picture. If you crop one end of a 35mm rectangle, you end up with a shorter version that matches the framing of a large format camera, one that was a choice of landscape greats such as Ansel Adams and more recently Joe Cornish. For many, this was the perfect format for landscape photography, with less bias to one orientation than 35mm. This can give a more pleasing and balanced view, allowing the subject to become the focus rather than the format. But this is a film dimension used by many medium format cameras and is a very similar aspect ratio to 5:4. It's just a smaller format which is measured in centimetres rather than inches. I mention this because if you ever want to try a film camera, this is an ideal one to go for, the 6:7 medium format camera. Now if you really want your images to have impact, then shooting them in the 3:1 aspect ratio is the way to go. This format creates an eye-catching panorama view of a scene, giving a real sense of being there and looks super impressive on 6:17 film. However, this format needs to be used with care. If the subject and composition isn't strong enough, the results can be left looking bland and empty looking. A shorter version of this panoramic is the 6:12 version, which is a 2:1 aspect ratio. The Micro 4/3 format is the one used by Olympus and Panasonic in their mirrorless cameras. Again, this 4:3 aspect ratio is very similar to 5:4 and 6:7 formats of the larger film cameras, but the slightly shorter rectangle means it sits in between 5:4 and 35mm aspect wise. In contrast, the APS-C format used by Fuji and the full frame format used by Sony in their respective mirrorless cameras matches the 3:2 aspect ratio used in standard digital SLRs. Now we've mentioned the 1:1 square format crop, but there's another crop option that you may find available in your camera, which is 16:9. Now this is a slight panoramic aspect ratio, but can be created in camera rather than post-processing with multiple images. Do bear in mind though that both these formats are just crops of the standard full format of your camera. Both can be used to help with composition, but especially with that 16:9 format, they don't extend the standard format, they just match a crop that you could do later on. A square simplifies an image and creates a sense of calm and balance, and is therefore ideal for abstracts or to emphasize minimalism. It's a symmetrical and balanced format and also allows you to get away with placing your main subject dead center. This format allows you to draw the viewer's eye from one side of the frame to the other and is therefore ideal for landscape vistas. Be careful of too many horizontal lines in your compositions, however, as too many horizontals in a horizontal format can lead to a dull looking result. In those instances, go vertical to add tension. Now the vertical rectangle orientation is ideal to emphasize foreground. So really find a bold subject such as a rock or a fallen tree to fill that foreground area and give your viewer a sense that they could literally step into that view. Lines and shapes are ideal for this format too, so look out for S or Z-shaped patterns to include in your compositions. However, it can include too much sky on occasions, so crop into a 5x4 or 6x7 format can give a better balance. This format really allows you to include a wide vista. There is less emphasis on the foreground and more on the midground and the background. Try to lead the eye from left to right through the frame in your composition. And don't forget that a panoramic can also be captured vertically. Well, thank you for watching. I hope you found some of that useful. If you did, give the video a like, and if you haven't already, please do subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.